Now, over the past week, Chris Kenny has been unrelenting as he exposed the ABC for editing footage of Donald Trump's speech in a strikingly similar fashion to the scandal that engulfed the BBC. At the BBC, heads have rolled. At the ABC, they insist there's nothing to see. In fact, Media Watch devoted its entire program last night to mount a case that the broadcaster was impartial. And they turned its attack on Kenny for daring to challenge the integrity of their coverage on Trump, on Israel, and on transgender issues. They effectively absolved themselves, declaring there's no serious problem of bias at the public broadcaster.
After the usual critics used the BBC blow-up to turn their blowtorches on the ABC, we at Media Watch have not been able to forensically examine the entire output of the organisation on these three very big and very tricky areas of reporting. But, notwithstanding the gaps in transgender coverage, from what we found, there was nothing which might suggest, as the Australian did, that resignations might be called for at the ABC, not even close. Rather, it seems this was a naked attempt to draw the ABC into a public broadcasting crisis 17,000 kilometres away, which smeared without foundation some of the ABC's finest reporting.
Smeared without foundation? Well, this is despite Chris Kenny showing how the ABC, in two separate programs, misleadingly edited Trump's speech to make it appear as though he was encouraging rioters to storm the Capitol.
And after this, we're going to walk down and I'll be there with you, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
The misleading edits are irrefutable. They omit the same section as the BBC, where Trump says he wants supporters to go to the Capitol to cheer on senators. And Media Watch's defence collapses even further when set against all that we've witnessed over the past 2 years, the ABC's egregious anti-Israel bias. Host Linton Besser was forced to concede that ABC television news aired the false claim that 14,000 Gazan babies would die of starvation within 48 hours. Now, the ABC aired that even after the statement had already been proven wrong. Besser acknowledged additional failures as well.
In fact, in 2023, a music program on Triple J was indeed pinged for failing the ABC standard on impartiality. And the ABC News Division has been found to have made serious errors, such as not reporting important context about the firing of Hamas rockets.
Yet despite all of this, Besser largely cleared the ABC of anti-Israel bias. He pointed to the fact that ABC's independent ombudsman had not identified a single breach of the broadcaster's impartiality obligations. But this reflects far more on the ombudsman than it does on the ABC. Because over the past 2 years, the ABC's coverage of Israel's fight for its own survival against bloodthirsty terrorists has been anything but impartial. And as I've spoken about many times before, the ABC's one-sided and constantly critical coverage of the only Jewish state in the world has played a role in fueling the rise in anti-Semitism here in Australia. The ABC routinely amplifies anti-Israel narratives and allows pro-Hamas talking points to air unchallenged. The hostility has been so pervasive and the neglect of the anti-Semitism crisis so profound that Jewish employees like Ilan Zetlin felt compelled to leave the organisation entirely. Now, the ABC claims to be trusted, objective and unbiased, yet it's none of those things. It often suppresses lines of inquiry that don't suit its political narrative, like dubbing an investigation into the origins of COVID-19 in Wuhan a conspiracy. Its green left worldview is unmistakable in the stories it selects, the guests it elevates, and the rigour or leniency applied to political interviews. Viewers know this. Politicians know this. Yet the ABC is so blinkered by its own self-importance, so blinded by its own bias, that it refuses to recognise the truth. Its lack of objectivity, required by its own charter, is obvious. And no 15-minute defence on Media Watch can erase its record of partiality and distortion on many issues, but none worse than vilifying support for Israel. This has only aggravated the social cohesion crisis we've experienced over the past 2 years.